You think you are bad at redstone. You're not. You are an imperfect redstoner, and so am I. Recently, I've been planning a redstone project, the first one in this world, and I thought I might share some of my recent discoveries on how to set yourself up for success with a redstone project. Yep. This video is about planning and execution, but we'll get to that later. I'll be sharing my planning process and applying it to this redstone project, all so that you have the opportunity to apply this to your redstone projects, helping to prevent us as imperfect redstoners from giving up on these projects like I have in the past. The first step is really simple. Grab a piece of paper or open a new Google Doc and do this. Number 1, write it down. Write down the project you have in mind. Just a one-sentence explanation of what the project is. If it's your first redstone project, I suggest starting with something simple, something that you 100% know you can complete. For me, it's a note block song to go along with a new furnace room. After you do that, let it sit for a while, a few minutes, a few hours, heck, maybe even a few days. Then comes step 2, research. Find some inspiration. Go to YouTube or Reddit or wherever you consume Minecraft content and try to find some examples of others building the thing that you want to build. Look at all the components that they use in that build, and then go back to your document and write down which components you'll need, as well as some other details about your project. For example, in my project, I'll need to choose a song in which I'll be building. Me Apartment, the inside apartment variant from Tomodachi Life. Next comes the third step, experimentation. You first must understand what each component does. If you understand how each component works, you can use them in this and later projects. This is a repeater. It was introduced in beta 1.3, this version that I'm playing, to replace this structure. This is what a repeater was before this redstone component was introduced. They both do the same thing. And if you link these together, you'll see that an old school repeater has the same value as this version of the repeater set to the second setting. But one of the issues with this repeater is that it can't be modified. It is what it is. It has 4 settings and it does one thing. Meanwhile, the old school repeater, it works a little differently. It's 2 redstone inverters, meaning that it can be modified if you take a repeater like this that has 1 input and 1 output, and you add a second input to it. There we go. It gains a new property. Now this old school repeater with 2 inputs isn't a repeater anymore. It's a logic gate. And a rather simple one, it's an AND gate. In other words, if you turn this signal on, this is one of the 2 input signals, nothing changes. There's no change in the output. And same is true if you do this one, flip it on. The output is still off. But if you flip both of the inputs on, the output turns on, but only if both inputs have power. Because if I turn this one off, the output goes away. This allows you to base when something activates on the presence of 2 different signals, which is going to be useful because I'd like to make a one-way pressure plate. Now, a normal pressure plate, when you step on it, it activates, but you don't have any control over when it activates. If you walk this way, it turns on. If you walk that way, it still plays. Using this AND gate, I made this. It's a pressure plate that only works in a single direction. Say I walk this way, it plays a sound. But if I walk the other direction, nothing happens. By using this AND gate and combining it with a few new style repeaters, or at least new to this version, you can build a one-way pressure plate. I'm going to use one of these to activate this song that I plan to build, but where am I going to build it? I'm going to build it over here, in this section of my storage room. With that figured out, there's one last thing that we really need to do. Figure out the tempo of this song. Okay, so I have this line of note blocks set to 3 redstone ticks between each note, and the original song is at about 86 beats per minute, and the entire song's comprised of eighth notes, so it's around 172 eighth notes per minute. Of course, it doesn't have to be super exact with all this. I'm just trying to get something that's pretty close. Sounds a little fast, so we'll adjust these. And that's just a tiny bit slow, but there's only 10 redstone ticks per second to do these things, so slightly slow is good enough. Of course, if you place different blocks underneath a note block, it plays a different sound. Up until now, we've been using dirt. This first note is dirt, the second stone, third wood, fourth glass, fifth sand. I'll have to figure out which of these works, and once you've done that, build a mock-up of whatever it is you're going to be building, preferably in a creative world, taking inspiration from all of that research you did earlier. So I've been messing around, and I figured out that this is probably the most efficient way of laying out this note block song. I'll show you. Pretty simple. But to lay it out like this, I'm gonna need like an entire chest worth of redstone dust. Once that's done, test your mock-up build. Make sure everything works. Find whatever may be wrong and figure out how to fix it. And you may need to go through this process a few times until you figure out all the issues. And then we get to step 4. It's time to finalize the plans. Go back to the document, write down everything you will need to build this project, as well as the key details of this device's design. This should give you a document that looks something like this. Now finally, the part you're all here for, the building, aka the execution that I mentioned earlier. I need 1 chest of redstone dust. Fortunately, that only took 8 hours of my life that I will never get back. Painting. Great. My absolute least favorite block to deal with. Great. Uh-oh. That's a strange glitch. I'll just put those there. After that, I went back to finishing the furnace room, choosing to use lava to light it. And after placing some furnaces, and smelting some stone, I needed some wood. Once that was collected and replanted, I got started crafting. And oh my goodness, so much clicking, so much crafting. I swear I sat there for like 10 minutes straight, just crafting the components I needed. It took so long. And then it was finally time to dig out the area for the note block song and start constructing it. Okay, what would happen if I put a note block there? Would it play a note? Nope, it would not. So that means that I can stack these lines really close to each other. Yep, that'll work. And after struggling to figure out the baseline for the first measure, I then copied it to the second measure. Okay, I've got the baseline figured out, or at least the first baseline, and after that I figured out the melody only for this to happen. Oh, okay. And after fixing that, I realized that the melody was wrong. Of course, leading me to fixing it. Now to copy that measure 2 more times. This song has a structure to it composed of 3 parts. Part A, which repeats twice at the beginning of the song, and then B once, and C as the last section of the song. And building one final measure will complete part A. Okay, now I gotta build that again. Now just to do the second half of this first level, because this floor is only the first part of this song. Okay, now to build another floor of this, which requires a little bit of digging. and then building the platform for the note blocks. I then started on B as baseline. And then came the melody, which turned into quite a struggle. Oops. I realize what I did wrong now. Okay, let's figure out this last rhythm. Okay. It was a slow, grueling process, but in the end I prevailed. Whew, much better. Okay, it's bedtime. See y'all tomorrow. By the way, this is episode 10, Plan of Action. The next day, with section B done, I started on section C. Now for the next 4 measures of the song, you would think I'd just copy this again, like I did with the first floor. And you'd be partially correct. I get to copy exactly the first 2 measures. In other words, these first 2 rows. Now for the hard part. Wait, hold on a second. And you might think that's where the song ends, but nope, there's one more measure. Yep, C has 5 measures, so I gotta extend this a little bit more. This one's a little weird. Certain beats have 2 bass notes. There's 2 bass notes. Okay. 2 more bass notes. Okay, let's try this out. Uh-oh, forgot some redstone, and one of these repeaters isn't set long enough. Wait, do I have a repeater backwards? Oh, yep. There's the repeater, and, oh yeah, no redstone. That would make a difference. Okay, 3rd time's the charm. Okay, we will change that one to that. And then I think it's done. There are 2 more things to do before this project is complete. Installing the one-way pressure plate from earlier, and decorating the furnace room. This entails setting up 2 redstone lines underneath the entrance to the furnace room. And connecting them to an AND gate. And then running a wire up to the beginning of the song. Oh wait. There. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. And then for the decorating, I added smooth stone columns and lines throughout the floor and ceiling. As well as replacing any undesirable blocks with stone or ores. And as well as digging out and adding 3 coves for chests. Now, with the furnace room finally decorated as I would like it, I can show you how to activate the song. At the entrance here, there are 2 lines of pressure plates, connected to the one-way pressure plate circuit I developed earlier. Leaving the furnace room, nothing happens. But when you enter it, it activates the song. Meaning that this project is finished. In the beginning, the project as a whole may look daunting and overwhelming, but this system should help you break it down into much smaller, easier to manage pieces. And I know writing it down doesn't sound like it would make a big difference, but it really does. The system isn't only applicable to Redstone. I started doing this for all kinds of plans initially. I used to be one of those people that insisted that writing a plan down was unnecessary. But a few years ago at this point, I decided to try it out. And at first it didn't seem like it was helpful, but slowly, over time, I noticed that the more that I did it, the more success I had with those plans. Heck, every episode in this series has been planned with some version of this process, as well as a whole bunch of other projects too, most of which you'll see in future videos. But speaking of those videos, if you made it this far, maybe you would enjoy this video of me trying to learn how to become a better builder.